Good evening, gentlemen.
Gentlemen.
I just for anyone that's listening, when we run this podcast, we have like a cover screen, and Tim orchestrated some music for it. So now, whenever I see that cover screen, I can just hear it. I can hear the music in there. It's cool.
Yeah, even though I put it in editing afterwards.
In post production, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we can still hear it. So, let's go through what we're drinking, and then we will start having some conversation. So, I am drinking this beverage that I'm holding up here, which I've had once before on the show. It is
That looks fancy.
20-year-old brandy, and I thought I'd get something a bit special, seeing as we've finished this book and we're having our chat about it tonight. What are you drinking tonight, Lachlan?
I've got some Dead Man Fingers rum, which I've got with a bit of ginger beer. So very, very nice drink. Worked out that the flavour of the rum works better with ginger beer than ginger ale. So that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
It's actually I think I mentioned this to Rubes before. I don't tend to drink any spirits neat. I don't tend to enjoy that. But this stuff over ice, just on its own, is actually pretty damn nice, I have to say. Dead Man's Fingers. I'll bring some round next time.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
How about you, Rubes?
Oh, I am drinking a Furphy. I got this really good mate. He comes around every now and then. I have a barbecue. He leaves beer in my fridge, and then I drink it when I do a podcast the next night.
I think you've mentioned this guy before.
Pretty good guy.
Look, he's a tool.
In fact,
He's a
I wrote down that
total
you
tool.
mentioned this guy before because you said that this guy is like Socrates, but unlike Socrates, he brings his own drinks. That was in episode 14.
That's perfect.
So, speaking of previous episodes and drinks, I've just added what we're drinking tonight to the tallies to see if it would change the outcomes. So, Lachlan, last week you said that your preferred drink for the year, we'll call it, or the season, was G&T.
Yeah.
So, out of approximately 24 nights of podcasting with us having a drink each week, 12 times you had G&T.
Ooh, okay.
Oh,
50% of the time.
Yep.
Were you expecting it to be
slightly
higher,
less
or it was lower? There you go.
Yeah.
So your next best was rum with something. You've had that 4 times, followed by red wine by 3, and then you've had 1 whiskey sort of drink, 1 beer ale sort of drink, a coffee, and you had a bourbon and Coke, which was
There
actually
you go.
Pepsi. So I sussed it all
you've
out.
done
So
you've done some homework there, Timmy.
I did. I checked it all out. I wrote it all down.
I do have a question before you go any further. Did you make a spreadsheet?
No, I used a piece of paper and I didn't draw lines, so it doesn't count
Impressive.
as a spreadsheet. Although you could
Oh,
draw
right,
lines and it
okay.
would look like one, yes.
Tip for the players at home: Tim loves a spreadsheet. Just quietly.
He's a spreadsheet fiend.
Yeah, correct. All right, Ruben. Last week you said it might be G&T or rum. Which way do you think it went?
I think I went to G&T.
Rum, 6 out of 24. G&T, 5 out of 24.
Oh, that was close.
So the rum was the winner, but only 25% of the time. So you had a much larger spread. So
More
Ruben,
diversity.
you had 9 different types of beverages during the 24 weeks. So not bad. And for myself, I said I think it might be beer, but it could also be whiskey or rum. It was beer.
There you go.
So, and by beer, I mean beer and ale. I'm not specifying the difference. So, for those
Fair
ale
call.
purists out there, I apologise. But I had eight weeks where I had beer or ale, and 7
Ale
where I had
purists?
whiskey.
Is that a thing? Ale purist?
I think so.
Wow. If there's any help for us out there, we want you to contact us.
Okay, special mention for the one that sort of stood out the most was Ruben. One week you had a glass of milk. That was really funny. And 1 week I had a cup of tea. So there you go. So we were all pretty close to the mark where we thought we would be. So that was interesting. Indeed. So on to the book. So we finished. We have some standard questions that Lachlan suggested. My idea was we would work through like what was the main lesson from each chapter, and then I realised that that's a terrible idea because that'll take hours.
I have a feeling we would get stuck at point 3 and wind up talking for half an hour about it, and then realise that we have to do 10 episodes to do the final episode.
Yeah, maybe we are taking off the Socrates a little bit too much here, and we have to do what the old guy did and just laugh and walk away at some point.
Well, my favourite Led Zeppelin song is Ramble On, so...
There you go.
There you go. So, I've written down these questions that you suggested, Lachlan. So, the first question, and I'm hoping post-edit to put these on the screen so it looks fancy. But the first question we're going to take turns at discussing is, what surprised you about reading this book? So, Lachlan, you thought of these questions, so you can go first for this one.
Oh, nice. Sure. Yeah, look, I think more or less it was the comedy surprised me when I was reading it, and just the natural style of the writing. It just made it heaps more accessible and more novel-like. It helped you imagine the surroundings. You can put yourself in the picture. You can almost sort of see the guys, standing around having a, glass of wine or listen to Socrates kind of meandering on his way through his arguments and things. So, for something that was written 2,500 years ago, it wasn't dry, and I was expecting dry. So, so it was great. A lot more sort of humanity to it as well, and I think you'd be sort of surprised by how much you could identify. I think even with this stuff, even though you're talking about what man was in a figurative sense, that long ago, there's so much you could identify in common with what they're talking about. And I think like human condition doesn't seem like it's changed that much. I mean, okay, maybe we're not doing like sacrifices at the altar for the gods these days, but there was a lot of other stuff that actually still had quite a lot of commonality with modern life, which is surprising for me.
Yeah. Good answer. Before we move on to other people, did you want to comment on that at all, Ruben?
No, I don't want to invalidate Lachlan's experience.
Thank you for respecting me, Rubes.
I'm going to say that I agree with you so far, Lachlan, about the humour, particularly given it wasn't originally written in our language. The fact that it translates so well and still quite amusing to read is pretty good. So, all right, what surprised you about reading this book, Ruben?
Almost similarly to what Lachlan said, just how it's still so relevant to our current day. Like I expected there to be a lot more like, oh, what are they talking about? That's really weird. Wow, that must be because it's 2,500 years ago or whatever. It's like, no. Most of what they were saying was pretty relatable. And I think that probably did come down to just the fact that the human condition may or may not have really changed that much.
Yeah.
To answer this question, I didn't think of the comedy aspect, but Lachlan's right about that. It's very entertaining.
Get some great takedowns there, and I don't know, just it's funny how something that seems like so situational, just still like you could imagine it like some of that stuff being in like The Office or something. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
very good.
Steve Carell as Socrates.
Oh, dude.
Oh,
If I was
that could work.
if I won the lottery, I'd try to fund that as a TV show.
Is he the right guy? I mean, is there someone who looks
He's
more
not, but that's
Socratic?
kind of the point.
Yeah.
Okay, I see where you're going with it. Um, yeah, okay. I'll have a crack at answering it too.
Okay, good.
I was really surprised around the building the fake kingdom method. You know, building that city and going into that scale. It didn't like that's something I never ever thought would be in there. Like I never thought about that sort of thinking at all. I thought it was
Sorry,
really
do you mean like as a method of figuring things out? That surprised you?
as a method, but also just the fact that it was there. Like
Hmm.
it just felt like an unexpected, unnatural direction to go when you're pursuing this question or the answer for this question. To do that, but it worked to get his points across. So, good on him.
It was also massive too. Like the amount of time they took to build it, the detail, and the yeah, it was a pretty epic undertaking they went to. I don't know if they quite extracted everything they thought they were going to get out of it at the end, but the process of building it was interesting.
I'd like to see a HBO series where someone colonizes a planet using this method and watch it sort of unfold and play out.
Speaking of potential TV translations, what I'd like to see is like a gross dumbing down version of it, where it's not Socrates in Greek, but it's current day at a bus stop with dudes that don't have jobs. Or not, sorry,
Yeah.
one dude that doesn't have a job, and then other people that are waiting for the bus to go to their jobs, and see the conversation work in that way, but in just like really dumbed down language. I have no doubt that wouldn't work, but I'd still like to see it.
I could see that. I could see that. Yeah, different people into the conversation, so it's like each book is almost like someone different coming through.
That's
But
a
yeah,
good
right,
idea.
Jimmy. That would be a pretty epic sci-fi.
Well, imagine
Yeah.
like two people take a ship full of embryos to a planet, and it's their responsibility to make those things all get birth somehow, and then there's thousands of children there, or maybe it's a dozen people or something like that. That gives them that clean slate to make that mythology happen straight up
And
front,
that's how they do it.
and then they
Yeah.
apply the Socratic model to that planet, and then what happens? And then there's like then they get interactions with other planets that aren't based on that model, and demonstrate, was it successful? Did it work? Did they become the best planet in the universe, sort of thing?
I wonder if that model would be. I'm just going to throw it out there, but if that model would be relevant if they had no one to fight, though, because it was all sort of that warrior and the philosopher. If you colonized a planet, assuming we haven't sort of run into any aliens in the meantime, yeah, they'd have no one to fight.
Well,
So you
that
wonder.
was my reason of introducing other planets, because that occurred to
Yeah,
me
sure.
as I was speaking. But you could do it with aliens as well.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
yeah. Anyway, that would be interesting. Okay. Now with the bus stop one, Ruben, I think you could start and end each chapter with a bus arriving. So at the end of chapter one, the bus arrives. The old guy laughs and hops on the bus to go to work, and the other guys go,
And
"I'm not catching the bus yet. I'm too enthralled in this conversation," and they just hang around.
All right, yeah.
And at the end of each chapter, the bus rolls in, and then next chapter, bus
they don't
rolls
get
out,
on
and they're
it.
still sitting there.
Because they're just they're enthralled in the argument.
Yeah, and they spend the whole day at the bus stop, not going to work.
Well, I would,
That could be funny.
without having given it too much thought, I'd have, like, you could have different occupations allotted to the different characters. So Thrax's Marcus would probably be Oh, I don't know. What would he be? Probably work for the government. He'd be some kind of politician or something. I don't know.
Involved in
Glaucon might be like a
mergers and acquisitions.
yes, yeah. That's clever. I like that. And I don't know. Glaucon could be like an ex-military sort of, like really tough soldier guy or something. I don't know.
I think you're onto something. Or he could be like a parking ticket guy.
Glaucon.
Yeah, why not? No one likes a parking ticket guy. That could work for sure.
So you're saying you didn't like Glaucon?
I feel like the people in the room didn't.
Other than Socrates, yeah. Could be onto something there.
It's all good. All right, let's soldier on. Actually, all right. So we just resumed after doing a little bit of tech issues because we're getting a bit grainy.
And when he says tech issues, he means that Lachlan needed to refresh his drink.
Well, you got to do what you got to do, right?
That glass is magical. It's full again.
Never-ending pack of Tim Tams.
Yeah, those watching will know that it was grainy. All right. So, the second question. This book is regarded as a philosophy classic. Did it live up to the hype? We're going to take turns of who goes first. So, Ruben, I'll let you go first this time. So, did it live up to the hype?
Oh, it's an easy yes. I mean, are we even in a position to judge it when this is the only philosophical classic we've ever read? I don't know. But I'm going to say yes. I was certainly impressed. I'm actually worried. I'm worried because we have to choose another book to read next, and we're leaning towards sort of ancient philosophy. But I'm just worried that it's not going to be as easy to read and as entertaining as this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm concerned we've started with The Empire Strikes Back.
No, but as far as the classic goes, I don't know how you couldn't consider it classic. It just touches on so many things. It touches on government, it touches on philosophy, it touches on epistemology, it touches on morals, it touches on ethics, the whole shebang in one book. So I think it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Philosophical or not, I've never read anything like it.
Especially given the size of the damn thing.
Yeah.
I do wonder why I kind of do wonder why there's not more books written in this fashion.
What, like a conversation or something?
Yeah, just like a conversation. To me, it seems like the best way to learn.
Well, those listening, there might be someone who knows this stuff better than we do, which is highly plausible. So maybe there is books out there that are written like that.
Yeah, let us know if there are.
We can always ask that philosophical giant Google. Books like the Republic. And if,
like but not like, yeah.
Yeah, I will become very. Well, I won't be surprised, being Google, that if it brings up something like the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah.
I've read that, and it's not like the Republic. It's super short and preachy, which is like the opposite of Plato.
Yeah. I'm gonna have a crack second at answering this one. Did it live up to the hype?
Oh, lost your audio there, Tim.
You're out.
You're right, I was out. When I changed this camera angle, it muted me for some reason. I was going to say it did live up to the hype, but not in the way that I thought it would. So I thought it would be... Well, I didn't realise it would be like a dialogue sort of story conversation, because I'd read some Seneca and other stuff. But I didn't realise the pursuit of what is justice would go down all these different rabbit holes, and I didn't realize that dogs are philosophers either. So yeah, it did, but in a different way to what I was expecting. Although I can't quite say exactly what I was expecting.
Yeah.
How about you, Lachlan?
Like honestly, like whilst I'd heard about the book, I'm not a student of philosophy. I didn't really have much preconception around what we were going to be sort of reading or getting into it. And in that sense, like I don't think I even really understood what philosophy was, right? So I was really coming at this from noob status, and look, I can definitely see why it's a classic. I mean, it asks some really interesting questions and poses some like um, super cerebral sort of hypotheticals, but in a logical structure and manner that's easy to digest. So yeah, I think like Rubes is sort of saying, like it's just touching on so many different sort of points that are just relevant to human life, human condition. So um, yeah, I mean it gets you thinking about human progress, what we're doing well, and what we're still doing wrong 2,500 years later. That Plato knew, and we're still doing it. So yeah,
Yep.
so I'd say yeah. Look, I didn't have much hype personally, but I can see why it's a classic.
Yeah, cool. I just want to say it's really cool, Lachlan, that you were willing to jump in to do this whole book with that level of understanding about what we were trying to do. I don't know if you did it because
Lachlan
we
was
were
the
in
one that
lockdown
was
and you're
most.
like, there's nothing else to do, but
He was like the one that was most roped into it, and like he was probably the one that put the most like technical effort. Like he was you were the dude that was like looking stuff up and making notes and all sorts of stuff.
Look, I guess as much as anything, I was I was keen to do something with my mates, and so and I thought, you know what, sometimes it's good to push yourself to do something that's outside your normal comfort zone, and so here's me looking at philosophy. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, I've really enjoyed the process, so it's been good. But yeah, I was roped in a bit, but it was good to be roped in.
yeah, I agree. And it was good to have you there because I was so busy trying to get my head around how to make this software work and get the website going and get the RSS streams going and everything else going that I would say 70 to 80% of my research time during reading this book was actually not the book, but it was just how to get this thing to actually happen. So it was good having you guys having my six there. And Ruben was like the big wordsmith master.
Oh, that's a compliment I don't deserve.
That's good teamwork, boys. Good teamwork.
What about you, Timmy? This is regarded as a philosophical classic. Did it live up to the hype?
Yeah. I had a crack at answering that one. I think just saying it did, but not how I expected. But
yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah, but let's move on to the third question, and I'll answer that one first because I haven't had a go at going first yet. But I'm kind of scared of answering this one first. Is what was the number one takeaway learning? And this I don't like this question because it's there's too many.
That's a big question.
Takeaways and learnings. Yeah.
Wait, how many can you choose? You got to choose one.
Well, the one
my preference was you could pick one, but two if you want to cheat, and that's okay. But maybe we'll all do maybe let's all do our one first, and you can have a second round. If it hasn't been called out, you can call your second one. All right.
All right.
Okay. Well, the first one is one I'm going to do my best to explain what I mean. But the takeaway learning is, as I read through this massive unpacking of these ideas to try and answer a simple question that took heaps of time for someone to think through and debate with these other people in the book, the path to getting some sort of actual knowledge was very long and required a lot of effort. and that was also my experience as the reader and trying to work through it with you guys. So, like the takeaway learning from me was like you get out what you put into these things, and I think that might be part of Socrates' success is he's willing to really go all in to the pursuit of trying to find an answer for something. So, yeah, that's my one thing. You go, Lachlan.
Right. I'm going to break my own rule and cheat straight up because just like one thing, and it's not really about
broken.
I know, right? But because it's not really about the book, but I suppose like my number one thing is that I learned that I like understanding and talking about philosophy. So that's actually probably my number one thing. That's a bit throwaway, but it's been really good. I guess I've always liked the art of conversation, and that's one of the reasons why I sort of enjoyed this podcast format. But also, I like thinking and sort of playing devil's advocate and doing all that sort of thing. So it's enjoyable from that sort of perspective. That's more about the process. The actual thing I learned, I suppose, aside from the learning that I like philosophy, is I guess I've kind of grabbed on this story a couple of times, and it probably doesn't seem that important to other people, but it does to me. Was that concept about having a clean slate and a clear conscience at the end of your life? Obviously, it came right up at the start of the story with Paul Marcus's father, Cephalus, and it was also listed as one of the rewards of justice, greater than any treasure trove, at the end of this book, which was Victory Palm number 3, if you're playing along at home from last week's episode. For me, the reason that kind of hits home, this is just personal experience, right? But I can remember doing something bad as a kid, and not real bad in the sense of the world, all that sort of thing, but bad as for when you're a kid. And the guilt that I had over that haunted me for a few years, and that changed me as a kid. And I learnt that lesson, that it's just best to do the right thing all the time, and that I think the guilt that you live with for doing something wrong probably is like that punishment 100 times worse that they were sort of talking about when we were, when the guys were kind of getting judgment and, being sent to heaven or hell, basically, for whatever misdeeds you've done. Sorry, that only works if you've got a strong conscience, which I certainly had and still have, right? And so from then I always try to live my life and do the right thing, and I could sleep easy. So I guess that story just kind of resonated with me and the way I try to live my life now. I try to be a good person as much as possible, and I want to sleep easy at the end of my life as well, and be able to look back at doing good and not bad and all that sort of thing. So, I don't know. It sounds like kind of it's something I already maybe knew or do, but it connected with me anyway, that particular point.
Yeah, nice. How about you?
I got a quick question then. Sorry, can I intervene with a question? If that, I'm assuming that was a mindset that I'm just going to intervene with a question anyway, so cop it. I'm assuming that was kind of a mindset that you had prior to reading the book. So did you find that it was interesting to have that kind of mindset laid out philosophically and logically over the extent of the book?
Yeah, I mean, it was beautiful because it's like validation, I think, for what you kind of have worked out on your own, I suppose, like just as a natural process of life and experience, right? But to kind of like pull it apart from a philosophical kind of point of view. And I mean, Plato's pretty logical in the way he approaches things, right? I think I'm a fairly logical kind of person as well. So I don't know, maybe that's why I ended up making that distinction myself. But I think it feels validating, I suppose. So maybe it's all just big human ego. I just feel good about the fact that I feel like I'm right.
But maybe it's discovering something that you think is true from a different perception. So it's like rediscovering something as opposed to
what, Tim? They talk about philosophy being enlightenment, and I don't know, maybe I broke through the barrier there and got in touch with that prior knowledge of my soul from lives previously lived. And
you got up out of that cave, brother.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
You didn't drink the waters of forgetfulness.
I cut on through them. That's it.
Yeah, nice. All right, Ruben, what was your number one takeaway?
I think look, it's kind of similar to what Lachlan was saying, I suppose, but in a different way. And it goes back to the cave thing that we just mentioned. But what my number one takeaway was basically that there is a physical reality, and then there is like a reality above that. And I found that really resonated with me with Plato, how he's talking about these ideas which are sort of outside the cave, and then there's physical reality, which is all you interact with inside the cave. And I guess I sort of intuited that, or sort of almost believed that prior to reading the book. And this is why I say it was kind of similar to what Lachlan was saying. I always felt that and kind of thought that. So for me, it was really interesting to see a logical outworking, which is probably why I just asked Lachlan that question. For me, it was really interesting to see a logical outworking over the entirety of a book that kind of pretty much, I guess, validated the idea that you've got physical reality, but there's a higher reality, and that higher reality is really what informs that physical reality. I guess what's a really simple way to put that? A really simple way to put that would be like, I don't think that things like science can give you a complete description of reality, because all it can do is describe that physical reality. So there has to be something that's beyond that or above that. And that cave analogy in the book, and then just the way the whole thing worked out, was really probably my biggest takeaway, that people could come to that conclusion pre-Christian and pre-science. So I think that was probably my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, nice. I'm glad you guys mentioned the cave. That was a good thing for me. Coming back to that second option, Lachlan, because I did follow the rules at the start.
Good man.
I really loved when they explored the idea of the just man, and that someone who's truly just ends up having the same fate, basically what Jesus got, of just getting crucified by the world. I've thought on that a lot. I think it's a really interesting thing, and in my own time in the coming months, I'm going to see if any Catholic apologists or Protestant apologists have looked into that idea from a religious perspective, to see
which
is what happened at Calvary just a natural conclusion to someone who 100% tries to follow the truth and be the truth for the entirety of their life? Like, is it just a natural outcome, or is it something else? I'd like to look into that a bit.
Yeah.
I must admit, I had down as sort of my. I'm really cheating here because I've already sort of given two, right? But my proper number two, I had sort of listed as the cave as well, right? And I suppose similar to Rubes in that whole reality versus, I suppose, that enlightened reality that's sort of beyond that physical realm. And I found it interesting how Socrates put that up as like an understanding you can only achieve through philosophy. And, it seems like that's the only way you can achieve this almost like divine knowledge or a reconnection or communication with your soul that's drunk from the forgetful river and what have you. And, tapping into that sort of hidden truth within yourself or within the world or whatever it may well be. I think it's a really cool concept, and I guess that's almost like something like what, say, like the original Matrix movie would have tapped into, right? The feeling that there's something more to life than what you can just see in front of you. And I think that's like a really sort of core and fundamental part to the human condition. Why am I here? What's my purpose? And it's sort of, it's asking those sort of like big questions of yourself, I think. And I think in some ways this is trying to give you a way to understand maybe how that sort of works. I mean, it's not giving you the answer, but it's just sort of saying this is maybe a way to a method of thinking about that. I think it's a really cool concept. That said, also, like Socrates is sort of saying, like, in some ways it'd be good to just drop your whole mind into philosophy, and that wouldn't be like a waste of your time. But I don't think he really believed that, because it's more like, you can see that he actually would want you to experience the physical and the real as well. So you don't want to just delve into philosophy at the expense of the moment and the real stuff that's happening around you as well, because I think there's something you get from whatever this reality is you're experiencing that gives you that experience to be able to sort of maybe think higher on from that philosophical sort of point of view. So I don't know. Whilst he's sort of pointing that angle, I think he actually lives more of a 50-50 kind of thing, where he's thinking about philosophy, but he's also in the real world. But, anyway, that's just something I was thinking about.
I think you have to be that way, though. Like, if you think that it's right, how can I put this? If you're in the cave and everyone you've ever known is in that cave, and then you escape the cave, you're going to have to go back to that cave. Like, anybody who's got moral conviction, who believes they've now discovered everyone's been getting deceived and there's this new level of truth, to stay silent about it is not appropriate. So the fact that he does engage, to me, I guess makes sense. But it takes a hell of a person. Like, you'd have to be a hell of a person to convince people. I think you'd have to have a lot of integrity and be trusted by those people.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you've got certain people who would do this, like you might say, like a Tibetan monks. They've been known to sort of go and it could be in like a vow of silence for 20 years, and really they're meditating and philosophizing in their minds around the greater universe and themselves, or whatever it may well be. There's plenty of like new age thinkers who do similar kinds of things, right? There might be a little substance involved as well. I'm not too sure, but it's But look, I think there's a lot to be said for for balance, and I think, like all things, they're always talking about harmony in this book as well, and I think there is a natural harmony to that, thinking as well as doing, right? So anyway, lots of cool stuff in this book.
Oh yeah,
I agree. All right, question 4. Have you made any changes to your life or thinking as a result of the book? You can go first for this one, Lachlan.
Yeah, look, I don't think I've got any sort of like major changes as a result of it, but it's certainly given me a better appreciation for philosophy. I won't bang on about it too much because we've already been sort of talking about it, but I've just really enjoyed the thought-provoking nature of the conversation we've had through the book, as well as just, just the nature of you boys, though, as well. Asking and calling out different angles, I think, than maybe what I've picked up on when we've read. I know we've all sort of done that as we've gone along. I don't know if it's the book itself, but I suppose it's been a bit of a guide on getting that taste for philosophy. And I suppose if you're going to sort of try it out, you're starting with the Rolls Royce, right? So, it's been a smooth ride. But I think I'll certainly, maybe the one change is that I'll certainly go on to read and study some more philosophy because I've enjoyed learning about it. So that's me.
Nice. How about you, Rubes?
Yes. I have a change, but it's more of an intended change or something I've tried to implement but failing miserably at. I'm a really big fan from reading this book, the Socratic method of just kind of questioning. So I tend to be, as a person, a little bit preachy. Like I've got pretty strong opinions on things, and reading this book kind of gave me another path to take in terms of, well, I mean, it does, like you're not going to persuade anyone if you just tell them this is what it is and it is the way it is because I say so. Whereas Socrates takes this other method of like, okay, well, let's question it. What's your idea? Tell me about your idea. All right, here's my idea. Let's exchange ideas. Let's see where that goes. Let's follow that to the logical conclusion. So that's something that I've kind of tried to implement when talking to people about substantive issues. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to employ the Socratic method when you're deciding what to have for lunch. But
well, that just means someone else pays for it.
And if only. So that's the biggest change that I've tried to implement off the back of this book to varying degrees.
You had a bit of an experiment too with the the particular versus the general as well. Like that was sort of an angle
early on. Yes,
you're exploring.
That's
I think
true,
I think you've done some good experimentation as we've gone, Rubes. It's been good.
That's true. I've actually tried to implement it in real life conversations, and I don't want to go into COVID, but COVID has actually created like really good real life conversations because it's sort of new and it's changing the way society functions. So it has opened the door to have those kind of conversations. So I've kind of tried to employ that Socratic method. So that's the big change for me. Having said that, I fail at it miserably and usually end up just trying to yell my opinions from the pulpit. But at the very least, this book has kind of given me a different method to sort of think about. I try not to do that, so it's good.
Yeah, nice. For me, I found about 7 or 8 weeks in, it really started to change how I behave. I've become, what's the right way of saying this? It could be perceived as more patient, but I think I'm just trying to not be as arrogant. And listen to other ideas and try and understand, reasons behind things happening. And I think it's helped me parent better. It's helped me be a better husband in regards to when my wife comes to me with a problem. I think, and I can't verify this without asking it directly, but I think I'm suggesting less solutions and asking more questions, which is, from what I can tell, what they generally require is a conversation rather than the actual solution. So that seems to be working well. But even at work, I'm finding it's changed my behaviour. So
you've taken on board the fact that Socrates knows nothing, and you've now gone, I know nothing. I'm just going to ask questions.
I haven't gone that far, but I instead of going, I know what's wrong here, I'll go.
Yeah.
I think it might be this, but I'm going to dig and find out what it is, and at least once a week at work, that's proven to be a smart decision where I haven't made a bad call. Whereas previously I would have made a bad call. And I think as a parent, it's also meant that, again, I haven't sent the wrong child to their room. Without understanding exactly what happened first.
Yeah.
So
I think that you tend to get, I think, the reason I think you get like that richer experience when you do that too is because you get the person who's involved thinking about it and coming up with their own solutions as well. And they're always going to buy into that solution a lot more if they feel that they've come up with it themselves, or, it's been arrived at through a discussion rather than being told. People never listen when they get told. They only half listen.
Yeah.
They don't do it. It makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
So it makes good sense, Tim. It's good.
It seems to be working, but it's not something that I've gone, that's a tool, I'm going to apply that tool. It's more, it's actually changed the way I'm thinking. And so now it's just a natural consequence. So, which is different to other times when I've read leadership books and that sort of stuff, where I go, oh, that's a strategy I can use. This isn't about strategy, it's just me thinking differently. So, yeah, it's definitely made some impacts. All right, here's our fifth and final pre-prepared question. Who
Before
would
you do,
recommend...
just give me a quick break.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll take that opportunity as well because I am thirsty. So let's take a break. And we're back again. I've got water this time. Bit of H2O to go. All right, so final question. Who would you recommend this book to? So I'll start with you, Ruben.
Well, I don't understand the question. Do you mean like who would I recommend personally or like generally?
You can infer whatever. Yeah. Infer whatever you like.
I think everyone should read it. I think it should be in the high school curriculums. Yeah, that's it. And but more at a more personal level, if that were not the case, which it's not going to be the case that everyone has to read it, I would recommend that sort of young teenagers read it at the very least. And I'm going to be recommending my boys read it. I won't force them to read it because it's not very Socratic. But or is it? Maybe it is Socratic. He was very big on education.
Yeah.
But I know that's kind of a cop-out answer. Yeah, who should read it? Everyone. But yeah, that's what I think.
Nice. How about you, Lachlan?
Yeah, look, like Rubes, I'd be keen for my boys to read it at a reasonable age. It's funny. Like I kind of think everyone should read it, but I don't know. I think everyone should book club it. It's kind of, you get so much more out of it in the way that we've kind of gone through it. I know if I had just sat down and read this book, I probably wouldn't have pulled anywhere near as much meaning out of it as what we have. But yeah, look, I think there's a lot to be garnered for anyone. Someone who's aspiring to be a politician, someone who, I don't know, just isn't sure what to do with their life. There's a reason for everybody to read it. Yeah,
I think psychologists should read it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Well, I'm going to come straight out and say my wife should read it because she said she would read it and watch the show, and she's only up to episode 2, and she hasn't even finished chapter 1. So I reckon in about 4 years I'll get in trouble for making that statement specifically, because that'll be how long it takes if it happens.
Well, so, if you get to this point, Smellinor, it took you long enough.
And now Ruben will get a hit as well. So
nice.
Lachlan's going to play it safe and duck and weave. Well played.
Hey,
I think I'm with you there, Lachlan. The book, it never really occurred to me that this was a book club, but it kind of is. So,
what do you mean? I told you in the first episode.
I know, but I was just...
You did.
I was like, I thought you were joking. I was like, no, it's a podcast. It's not a book club. But we're podcasting a book club. So there you go. Yeah, everyone should read it. Yeah. When should they read it? I think high school, maybe. Not until the teachers have read it. So, but no, it's definitely good. So yeah, I will recommend it to people I care about for sure. And that tends to be a lot of people, but yeah, I think it's a wonderful piece of writing, and has a lot of stuff in there that's very good to think through and very good to think about. So yeah,
I think
I'll give it 5 stars. It's very nice.
I think what I do when my boys are old enough to read it, I'll probably read it with them, I reckon, and that way we can kind of have that benefit of a compact book club as we go.
And a conversation, yeah.
Here's a proposal. Do we get all of our kids to read it together in a book club at the same time with all of us?
Interesting.
Well, not in the podcast. Just we set that up as dads. All right, kids. This is what we're going to do this year. Once a week, we're getting on with these other people via Zoom, and we're going to read this book.
Mate, I think that is a glorious idea. That's amazing. Logistically,
sure.
Do I think it will actually happen? I don't know. But I'm totally on board. I think that's a great idea.
Well, we can make soccer and youth group and gymnastics happen, so why can't we make philosophical classes happen?
Yeah.
It's not poetry, for Pete's sake.
That's right.
I'm like, you learn martial arts to protect yourself. You learn martial arts to protect yourself physically. You read this to protect yourself mentally.
That's it.
And we'll just use each other's kids to pressure the other kids into doing it. So I'll be like, hey, Ruben's kids are reading this book. Don't you want to be cool as well? Lachlan's kids are awesome cool. You should be reading this book. They're reading it.
Parental peer pressure.
Yeah. Well, for those of you listening, if you would like to answer any of these questions, I will put them up on the Facebook page. Probably one each day over the coming days once we produce this video, and see what people think as well. But I've really enjoyed it. We will, in the coming days, hopefully, once we make our minds up, announce what book we're doing next. And but yeah, I think that is a wrap for Plato's The Republic. 24 episodes later. That would be roughly 24 hours later. We've got through it. So well done us. Well done, gentlemen. Claps all around.
For anyone that actually just wants to read it, it won't take you 24 hours to read.
It's true.
Well, it might if you read it at bedtime. You might nod off and then have to revisit it. But yeah, it's good. So yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you for coming on this little journey with us, reading through this book. Remember, the Republic wasn't built in a day, and neither were middle-aged men. And we come to the end of, I guess, this season. So thanks, and we'll catch you guys for the next book. Take care.
And cue the music.
Yeah.
Bye.